Welcome. My name is Youngmoo Kim. I'm an ADE from the class of 2013. I'm at Drexel University. I'm a professor of electrical and computer engineering, and I direct this thing called the Excite Center, which I'll tell you about in just a second. My Twitter handle is @Youngmoo, and welcome you to follow me there. And it can, occasionally I post something related to virtual choirs and certainly around the arts and technology. So, yeah, just to start off, a couple of housekeeping notes. So you're great. You've already all muted your microphones. Thank you. You are welcome to use your cameras. I'd love to see you, but it's completely optional. And we've already started to introduce yourselves in the chat. Thank you. And always great to know where everyone's from. So if you want to include that, please do. I will tell you about the iCloud Drive folder in just a second. Let's see, and I hope that I've already mentioned the iCloud Drive folder where some of the materials and the slides are, and hopefully you'll be able to upload content there in a bit. And I hope, I'm really just hoping that you'll be willing to contribute and we'll be able to actually do a live session here where we take videos and then put them together into a mixed video as well. And for this, it's best to have two devices, one with which to watch the session, and then another, probably your phone, where you can do a video recording, a selfie style video recording with your phone. I am recording this for archiving and hopefully for sharing later on. If you or your video appears in this video and you don't want it shared, I will certainly circle back with everybody before making that public. So if you have any concerns, you can chat with me now or send a message in the chat right now, or certainly don't upload a video. Then you're welcome not to do that as well. Okay, but it's fun, so I hope you will. Okay, and one last time, I'll keep reminding you of this URL, but it's bit.ly/VC for virtual choir, lowercase, virtual choir ADE. Hopefully easy to remember. And I will post the slide, well, the slides are actually already there. I will post the materials that we use for the session in that folder as well. Okay. And if you are having trouble connecting to the folder, I guess post something in the chat and we can try to hopefully sort that out. Okay, so I direct this thing at Drexel University called the Excite Center. We do some crazy things involving the arts and technology, dancing robots. We've done performances with dance companies and drones. We built an app for the Philadelphia Orchestra. We put video games on skyscrapers. I just mentioned this is that because I miss this stuff and I haven't been into my center physically in quite some time. But if any of this stuff is of interest to you, you can find out more from our website, drexel.edu/excite, or follow us on Twitter @ExciteCenter. That's a lot more technical than stuff that I'm going to talk about today, but if you're interested in that sort of intersection of arts and technology, that's something we do a lot of. At the beginning of the pandemic, once we went into stay-at-home orders, I started a newsletter. I started a little newsletter or blog weekly where looking at these interesting collaborative projects that are sprouting up all over the place, particularly creative artistic projects, virtual choirs, virtual dance performances, virtual everything. So that's what really got me interested, seeing what was out there and seeing the enormous creativity that was being generated, even despite the constraints of social distancing. So if you are interested in that topic, and certainly in, I use lots of examples from various virtual choirs, you can check out my blog or my newsletter at creating-at-a-distance.com, and you can sign up for the newsletter there as well. Okay, but I also, in addition to being a professor of electrical engineering, that's actually my day job, I am also a singer. I have a master's in music and vocal performance practice, and I've been members of choruses and singing groups throughout my life. So this is a shot from Tanglewood. I sang in the Tanglewood Festival chorus for many years. Really miss that. I miss choral singing. I miss singing at all in a group. I'm sure many of you do as well, because that's something we just can't do right now, unfortunately, right? And so instead, we are in a world where, content is being created like this, right? And I'm sure you've seen many examples thus far. And while I think this is great, there are many, many great possibilities, creative possibilities, and we'll talk about some of those. I miss live singing, right? So this is still sort of a way of exercising those muscles and exercising that sort of spontaneous musical creativity, but without being together in a group. So the first question I get asked a lot, and maybe you already know this, that people ask, well, why can't you do this over Zoom, right? Or Teams or Skype or whatever, right? Why doesn't this work? So there's a very simple reason, and that is that the lag, what we call latency, the time it takes for our video signals to travel over the internet and then get decoded and then replayed on your screen versus mine, that delay kills music. It's around a quarter, half a second, on a good day, and those time scales are just bad. So I'm going to ask you to do a little experiment with me. And you don't have to turn on your cameras. You can if you want, but I'm just going to clap a beat, right? And I want you to try to clap along with me, right? And hilarity will ensue. So you'll have to unmute your microphones. Unmute your microphones, right? So if you haven't done this, just to prove the point, I'm going to start a beat, and we will see what happens from there. Okay. So 3, 4. I love the offbeats. Okay. So that was, about 8, 9 of us doing that. And so you get the idea, right? That unfortunately, with Zoom and Skype and these technologies, it is impossible to maintain any kind of synchrony, particularly musically, the kind of timings that we would be accustomed to singing or performing as musicians, right? So Zoom is not the answer, and it doesn't matter. Skype, FaceTime, they all have that same limitation. If you really, really want to push the cutting edge, you can message me after this session, and I can tell you about the best you can do, which is still not great. You can get that delay just with audio down to about a 50th of a second on a good internet day, which is almost close enough for like 2 musicians to work together, right? So anyway, that's an aside. Let me put my presentation back. All right, so we can't do this through Zoom. So we do know, and obviously there are many, many examples of this, and really the pioneer of this, the master, is Eric Whitacre, who kind of created this format 10 years ago. 2010 was his first virtual choir, right? And at the time, it was very much a novelty. Hey, nobody had done it. He had, I think it was around 170 singers or so from around the world, created their independent videos, synchronized to a reference recording, a conductor track, right? And then he collected those videos and then formed them into a wonderful piece that was released on YouTube. And then it's only grown since then, right? Eric Whitacre is able to get thousands, tens of thousands of people to participate in his projects. And the latest one just came out about 2 weeks ago. It's beautiful, Virtual Choir number 6. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to check it out. But he's the one who really came up with the basic idea, right? And sort of showed that this was possible, right? So the process is pretty straightforward. That, okay, we can't maintain synchrony via Zoom or anything like that. What we can do is put out a reference track, a video or audio track that everyone will synchronize themselves to. So sing along with that and make a video, make, kind of a selfie video as you're singing along to that, right? And then all those videos get collected, and then everybody combines those, and then somebody, hopefully who has some video editing knowledge, but we'll talk through that too, will combine those into kind of a final performance, right? Uh, I will be the first to say there are enormous limitations to this approach, right? The notion of being sort of fluid and responsive, if you are a choral conductor or a choral singer, right, there's a lot of live give and take that you don't get, right? I'm watching a recording and fine, that's fine, but it's very different from doing it live, right? And it is very, very complicated. The overall process is pretty complicated. I'm going to try to break that down for you now, but just be warned, it is complicated. It involves multiple sort of pro level apps to make it all work together. All right. So before I dive into the process, just want to sort of set some expectations here, right? I think of the virtual chorus and the projects that I've been involved with as, one, obviously fun, but as a way to sort of keep singing and to maintain musicianship. It is certainly a way for students and colleagues to develop new skills, right? Because we're going to be working with media, digital media, and doing the integration of digital media and all that, which may or may not be part of their normal curriculum. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to integrate project-based learning. That it's no longer about, hey, we're going to practice until there's a performance. Look, we're working on a very different kind of outcome now, right? It will be a video, right? But there's so many different aspects to that project, and I think many, many different ways for students to become involved, in addition to singing and contributing that way. Right? But again, don't expect that it's easy. It's not, sorry. Don't shoot for something professional right off the bat. It is insanely hard to do what Eric Whitaker does and what some of the other virtual choir groups do. Eric Whitaker has a team of professional video editors who do this. So recognize that, but that you can create something fun, engaging, meaningful to you and your students. And I would not aim for something to go viral, right? That's never usually a good goal to start with. If it happens to, it's great, good on you. But there's so much stuff out there, so many virtual choirs out there already. Doing something for your students in your community, I think is obviously the first and foremost goal. I will say it does work for instruments too. Obviously, instruments you may have different constraints around instruments. Some schools are allowing orchestras, but not choirs, or at least small ensembles, right? But the process works for instruments too. Okay, so what is the process? Okay, 15 minutes in, I'm finally getting to the process. 6 steps, really 5, because the last one is just sharing your video. We're going to talk about how we prepare the materials, right? And I'll give an example and hopefully show you how we do that. Definitely there needs to be some mechanism to practice, either guiding students to do that on their own, or you can guide them through it live via Zoom or Meet or whatever. That is totally possible, right? Even with multiple students, right? As long as they're not singing back to you, right? And I'll show you this in a second, right? You can, the students or the contributors can do independent recordings or independent practice, and that works over Zoom. Obviously, there's the recording step, the recording and submission. I would add a sort of review, re-record, and resubmit step in there, because usually the first time it doesn't go right. There's going to be some issues, unexpected hiccups. But then really, once you have those recordings, then the editing process, I break it down into 2 steps. First, you want to mix the audio. You're going to want to deal with the audio first and create a kind of a really great sounding, or as good as you want sounding audio track that that then you can synchronize your videos to, right? And then that's the last technical step, which is you combine and edit everything together in Final Cut Pro. And that is a bear, but I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so let's dive in. All right. I think it's important to let your students know that this is challenging, right? To not say, hey, we're not expecting to get it right on the first go. Basically nobody does. That getting good quality videos, it certainly takes some practice. That sorry, I keep looking over to my right because I have another screen here. So I apologize. I know the camera's right here, so I apologize for that. Managing and organizing those submissions, it is a lot of bookkeeping, right? So you're gonna have to be, have those systems in place for students to upload their videos, organize those, keep track of all those. The thing I really did not appreciate going into some of my projects over the past couple months is really more the social aspect. That a lot of people, who will sing just fine in a group, just do it very, very differently by themselves, or feel highly self-conscious if it's just them and a camera, right? So, both with multiple groups, I've encountered this, and so, I mean, obviously, there's always the divas. There's always the folks who be like, totally, I could do it, whatever. And they might sound good, they might sound bad, whatever. But then there are those who, I think, the majority, who feel very self-conscious. So that's why I encourage practicing this with them, doing maybe even some live practice sessions online, if you can, but talking them through that, getting them familiar and comfortable with the process. And then editing. Editing will take a lot of time, but I think that's also an opportunity, as I'll highlight later, to incorporate your students. Okay. All right, let's talk about materials. So instructions, we all avoid the lengthy instructions. We want something short and precise, but there are a lot of steps to this. The biggest considerations, I think, up front, when you tell your students is, how do you want them to record, and in what format, in the sense of, do you want them holding the phone like this or like this? And believe it or not, this is actually critical, because if you get a mixture, it will make your life so hard down the road. So you want to sort of declare that up front. Even getting down to the details of resolution. I'm not going to belabor that right now, but cameras are different. They will record native different versions of iPhone. Certainly different Android phones will record in different resolutions. The more you can normalize that, the easier your life will be down the road. It's not insurmountable, but it will make your life easier. I prefer a portrait orientation, just because for people, especially people who have a little bit of anxiety about this, just because it's more natural to hold your phone this way and not this way. So I prefer this, and then if you know that you have portrait orientation videos coming in, you can plan accordingly. Right? Okay, the most critical piece of material, though, is then the reference track. The reference, either audio by itself, or some would prefer a video. I don't think you have to have a video, but certainly others would prefer having the video. Right? The key here is to give really good cues, right? Whether that's visual cues or audio cues, including like cutoffs, counting in, things like that. And then to keep it really short, because a lot of people end up doing it 10, 20 times, right? Trying to get that perfect recording. So you don't want like 10 minutes of instructions beforehand, right? Or I have to listen to all this again, right? You want to keep it nice and short. Okay, so let me give you a couple examples here. This, of course, is Eric Whitaker's conductor video for Virtual Choir 6. I'll just play a little bit of it. I'm gonna start from the beginning. The clap is crucial. I'll tell you why in a second here. Sorry to pause it there, but you can see, you can watch the whole thing afterwards. It's beautiful. It is. But obviously there are certain advantages to doing a video, to doing a conducting video. And in this case, he also had singers sing the individual parts and combine those into a reference track people. So people who participated in the latest virtual choir, over 17,000 of them, watched this, or there were slightly different versions for the different parts, and recorded themselves singing their part following Eric's conducting, like that. I am going to show you a slightly different way you can do this, focusing on the audio. So I'm going to flip over to GarageBand. Hopefully you can see that. And it just occurred to me the chat window disappeared for me, so I apologize if people have been asking questions. So feel free, if something's unclear, give me a shout out or shout at me in the chat, and I will I'll try to address things as they come up. Okay, I'm in GarageBand, and I've prepared this synchronization track for us. All right, and the piece that I want to do a very small excerpt of is Randall Thompson's Alleluia. If you're a choral singer, you may be familiar with it. It has a soft spot in my heart because he wrote it for Tanglewood, and we sang it so many times at Tanglewood. But basically, I'll play the beginning of this for you so you get a sense of what I think needs to go into a good reference track. First, let's do a false start so everyone can get into the piece. Here are the starting pitches. Important to give the notes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's a false start, but I like giving people the opportunities to kind of get into it a little bit, remember where it sits in their voice, remember where to breathe, right? So just that first measure, right? In this case, it's a well-recorded piece, so I've taken a recording, and that is sort of the reference to follow here. You'll also notice that I put in clicks, right? I use the drum track here to provide the beats in between so that everybody knows what the tempo is going in. Okay, next part of the reference recording. Now, let's clap quarter notes together to synchronize our tracks. Everybody ready? 3, 4. Okay, the clap is crucial because the clap gives you a reference point that you can then use to line up these tracks later on, right? If you try to do, you can try to do it individually later on and, nudge it one way or the other, but it is incredibly tedious. And imagine doing that for, a large ensemble. So the claps are crucial because it gives you some nice markers, these big spikes here, that then you can use to later line up your audio and even your video tracks. I'll show you a little bit later. Okay, so I usually do a 4-count clap just so I have 4 spikes that I can look for rather than just a single clap. Right? And then it's just the count in to the actual piece. And now let's start the piece for real. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I would like to do, if you're willing, is to actually try to do some recordings with you, and then you can share them back via that shared iCloud Drive folder, right? Not a requirement, but hey, it would be great. It'd be really, I have backup material too, if we don't have enough submissions. But this way, I would recommend, if you have an iPhone, just use the camera app. We'll record right into there. I will play the audio and I will conduct along. All right. Yes, and I realize many of you may not know the music. So if you go to that iCloud Drive folder, it is there. I am also going to put up the score right here. I don't know what size it's going to come through for you. I'm sorry. There's only so many things we can control in this world. And we're just going to do the first 4 bars. Right? And it's okay if it's terrible. It's all right. My takes are terrible too. There's really, every part is pretty simple. I don't think I'm going to bother playing through it right now. we're just going to try it because I don't want to take too much time. So I will leave the score up here. Hopefully you can still see me, or configure Zoom to be a way where you can still see me, because I will conduct as well. And then what I want you to do is, hopefully you're listening over headphones, listening to the session over headphones, but then just record using your selfie camera and iPhone microphone, using just the camera app. Okay. All right. Are we game? We'll try. I mean, if nothing else, if it doesn't turn out well, that's fine. I'll work with other material and talk through the rest of the process. But I think this will be fun. So I'm just gonna try it. Oh, sorry. Let me. Can I do this without? All right. All right. Here we go. So you're gonna get audio cues, and I'm gonna conduct. So hopefully you get it all, and then you can record your videos along. Here we go. So first, let's do a false start so everyone can get into the piece. Here are the starting pitches. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's clap quarter notes together to synchronize our tracks. Everybody ready? 3, 4. And now, let's start the piece for real. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. So hopefully you have a recording. I guess chat me back if we want to do one more take of that. Yeah. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do one more. That's fine. And yeah, I realize this is a lot, and if you don't know the piece, I certainly recognize it's going to be a little extra hard. Well, okay, maybe I'll sing through the parts really quickly. For basses, it's pretty simple. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Tenor part is even easier. There's only one note, the one note tenors. Alleluia, alleluia. It's all D all the way through. The altos have a really fun part. I cannot sing the soprano part in the same octave. I'll sing, but I can do the alto. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. That's the alto part. The soprano part I can't do in that octave, so I'm going to do an octave down. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Okay, pardon my terrible singing. I'm not in good voice today, but maybe that was helpful, maybe not. We're gonna do it one more time, and it's okay even if it doesn't work out so great. We'll move on. You'll still get the ideas here. Okay, I'm going to start the reference track again. Here we go. First, let's do a false start so everyone can get into the piece. Here are the starting pitches. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's clap quarter notes together to synchronize our tracks. Everybody ready? 3, 4. And now, let's start the piece for real. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Okay. So hopefully you have a video, and it's okay if you don't want to share it. That's totally fine. But if you are willing, save it to that shared iCloud Drive folder. So hopefully it appears in files. From the video, from your camera app, if you tap on the video, here's one I recorded earlier, and then if you tap on the share button, right, and then go to save to files, hopefully that shared folder is there. If it's not, then this is another illustration of how complicated this process can be. So, all right. So hopefully those are coming in. Let's see if I've gotten, not that folder. Okay. Hopefully as those are uploaded, they will just appear here magically. But I'm gonna then go on to the next step, which is then, let me go back to my slides here. Okay, we just did that. I guess I should make a couple of comments here, right? You can, I mean, you should choose ahead of time whether you want to go for the one device or two device strategy. The one device means that hopefully you can get all the cues and everything you need off of the phone and record on the phone itself too. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. The two device strategy means that you're going to watch or listen from a different device, maybe a laptop, maybe an iPad, but then record with your phone, right? And there are pros and cons to either one. Obviously, doing it from one device is simpler, right? But the catch is that you can't really watch video while you're recording video. One minor exception I'll talk about in a little bit. Two devices, yeah, you could have video, or that way there's just no you know, there's a little bit less complexity in terms of where the sound is coming from and where it's being recorded, right? Probably should have mentioned all this ahead of time, that you definitely want to use headphones in listening to the reference track. You know, if you have an external microphone, or if your students have external microphones, that's great. It's not at all required, right? That the microphones on these guys are actually not bad. And especially when you're combining like 10, 20, 40 of them, you will get a nice choral sound. So you don't need to really obsess over all audio quality. There is one gotcha that I found out the hard way, which is that unfortunately on iPhone 6S and 7, if you record this using earbuds, you will get distortion in the audio. There is a bug and they haven't fixed it. I don't know why. And it's not on iPhone 10 or later. I don't know about iPhone 8 because I don't have one of those devices, but it's definitely there on 6S and 7. The way to get around that is just don't use the earbuds as a recording microphone, right? Just use the built-in microphones on your phone. Okay. All right. Okay. We just used the built-in camera app. I see that. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, if you did the audio and voice memo, that's fine. You can still upload that. But yeah, ideally, videos. You know, our end product is going to be a video, so we'd love to have videos. So we use the built-in camera app. So there is this other app, Acapella, that you've probably heard of. I don't recommend it. It's cool. There are a lot of really great things you can do with it. It is costly. There's a monthly license, and it's limited to an ensemble of 9 performers. So that's why I don't use it. It is, however, the only app I know of that lets you watch a reference video while you're recording a new one, right? The problem is that once you do that, there's no way to extract them. They're fused forever. So that's another reason I don't use it. What I have done with some groups is use a different app called Mideo, M-I-D-E-O. It is a paid app. It's $3, but this allows you just for the audio to listen to a different track while you're recording video, right? So if you have an audio-only cue track, it does work. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat. Okay, it's no problem. It's no problem. So there are ways, or again, just using camera and then using a 2-device strategy is fine as well. Okay, we just did that. Sorry. And I didn't give you much practice. So let's move on to the next step since I have about 22 minutes, which is doing the audio mix. Okay. Oh, I see some coming in. This is great. This is great. At least I get to show you the best trick I've learned in the past couple of weeks. All right, so thank you. There's videos appearing. Don't worry, I won't solo anybody right now. But what I want is not just the videos. I want just the audio from those videos, right? And you could do that. You could go into, you bring them one by one into like a sound editor or whatever, extract that. But there's a one-step process to this that I only found out about a couple days ago, which is if you go to highlight the videos you want, right? I've got 3 of them highlighted here. And if you go to services, right? I don't know if anybody's ever used this menu before, but Finder, Services, Encode Selected Video Files. This is magic. You encode selected video files, and then it'll ask you, oh, all this funny stuff. No, 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 I just want the audio only. Audio only, no options, just audio only. Continue. And then boom, it's magic. Right? There it is, there's the second one, there's the third one. Yay. So I'm sorry, I'm just gonna move that over here because I'm gonna need that in a second. And then I'm gonna go over to Logic. Ooh, that looks scary. Let's not use that one. This is the one I wanted. Okay, so we started in GarageBand. You can totally do this in GarageBand. The reason I'm going to Logic now is to show you a couple things that where Logic makes it a bit easier. Once your ensemble starts to get big, and again, if you're really talking about a larger chorus, and by larger, I'm talking maybe like 15, 20, 30, obviously some of you may work with even larger choruses, 60, 80, you're gonna wanna use Logic for a couple reasons, but the one, it just makes it much easier to group and organize, let's say by voice part. So I'm going to drag in a couple of those audio files I just created in here. Let's see, we'll create new tracks. Okay, so here are 3 recordings that just got brought in. Here are 3 that I recorded earlier, right? And up here, and again, I apologize if you don't know much about GarageBand or Logic. Again, it is kind of a complicated process. I just imported all the reference stuff here. So this is still what we were listening to before. Oops, I don't want that. I just want, oh, sorry. I had that set as a, let's go back here. Now, let's clap quarter notes together to synchronize our track. Yeah, so that's all there, and that's just there so I can synchronize these things, right? And so we have these nice little spikes here from the from our claps. And again, you can just do this eyeballing it. Here's a good one. All right, so where those claps line up, and of course, if you want to zoom in, that's probably a good idea. You can zoom in and try to get these lined up, you know, as best you can. Let's see, this one didn't really get the claps very well, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna mute that one for now. Okay. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna just now listen to what we have voice part wise right now. All right, not bad for like, you know, 15 minutes of work. I am going to, I didn't want to mute that one. I wanted to mute that one. Okay, now this is why for an ensemble of any size, you want to use Logic. Because GarageBand can't do what I'm about to do here, which is that I'm going to assign these parts to a section, right? And because you know you might have sung the bass line, you might have sung the alto line, and the way you do that is that for these tracks that I've brought in here, this is what's called the mixer view, right, for each track. And I need to listen to what this one is, sorry. Nope, I don't want those. Okay, that's a bass part. I'm gonna I've already created these different, what are called buses or sends. I'm going to send that to the base. Oh, except I don't want that there. I want that here. Sorry, it should be on the output, not up here. It should be on the output bus base, right? Let's see this part. Okay, that's the tenor part. So I'm going to assign that one to the tenor. And again, I know this console gets incredibly messy very quickly, but it pays off because what I'm doing is, imagine if you have 10 or more singers per part, I'm going to map those individual singers to these nice sliders here, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. So I can control those independently, or sorry, sort of as a section, I can control those. And I'm putting it through some effects, some reverberation. Okay. So again, you know, we're not going to win a Grammy, but you know, hey, we did that in like 10 minutes. So obviously we would let's see, we wouldn't well, we wouldn't be doing it this fast, first off, but you know, I could bring in more and more audio files as they come in, and we can do our mix and our production here. And again, there are entire courses and probably degrees around, you know, doing audio production and mixing in Logic. So I'm not going to go super in depth there, but I want to make the very clear distinction. You can do this in GarageBand. It will get very, very cumbersome very quickly once you have, you know, 10, 20, 30 parts going. And Logic lets you then start to group those things, which is, of course, what they do in studios as well. Okay, I have 15 minutes left, so I'm going to move on to the next phase. Let's say we've done that. We have our mix. It sounds as good as we want it to sound. We would then export this, right? Bounce, what they call bounce, or share, I guess. Sorry, it's share. Share is the final mix. I'm not going to bother with that right now. Instead, I'm going to hop over now to Final Cut Pro and show you. Let me make sure I didn't skip over anything important there. Okay. Now, why Final Cut Pro? And why not iMovie? I really wish iMovie were up to this. It's not. iMovie can really only handle 2 simultaneous videos at once. And obviously that's great for a duet. And it's really not even side by side. It's picture in picture. But if you want like, you know, 30, 60 videos, you have to go to Final Cut Pro. Even so, Final Cut Pro wasn't really designed for this. You kind of have to bend it to your will, unfortunately. But this is where I'll show you, hopefully some of our planning pays off. So I'm going to flip over to Final Cut Pro. That's my backup content. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start. I recorded these earlier. Hallelujah. Okay, now I'm going to bring in some of our video files. I'm going to bring in, let's see, hopefully Ellen won't mind. So I just dragged in the video file. Don't worry, I won't solo you, Ellen. It's okay. But you see the video, but then you see, hopefully you can see this, and I realize screen sharing is sometimes suboptimal. You can still see the spikes from the claps, right? And so I'm going to use that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to find those spikes. There they are. And to align those, right? And again, you folks are really, really good sports for participating. I'm going to bring in this video. And by the way, I did a video with 60 singers. It killed my computer. I'm running on a desktop iMac right now, and you know, Final Cut Pro will certainly bring your computer to its knees. And again, I have no idea if it's even affecting the Zoom call, so I hope. Thanks. Okay, I'm looking if there's a new video coming in. Okay, whoops. All right, so I've got those lined up. Okay, so, all right, so this is Final Cut Pro. I'm gonna get rid of the stuff on the left so we can focus on what's happening here. My fans are starting to whir up, so I know my computer's working hard. Okay, where did everybody else go? So I'm gonna sort of hide me. So Final Cut Pro, not designed for this, but what you're gonna wanna do is, you have these videos, and again, the reason, well, here, we'll just do this. I'm gonna just take the videos and just scale them down a little bit. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do that. And then this video, I really hope you all don't mind your smiling visages up here. And I'll take some of the ones I did before, I'll scale them down. Now you would think that, like any other app, you could like select a couple of these and scale them down. You sort of can, but it doesn't make it easy. You would also think there would be smart guides or something like in Keynote where you can make sure things were the same size or aligned or something. Yeah, you don't get that in Final Cut Pro, unfortunately. So let's see, is there another video coming in? Not yet. Oh, I just got one. All right. Sorry, I'm just gonna add this one in. You're all such good sports. I really appreciate it. Let's see. I'm looking for the claps. Okay. I have to trim this video a little bit. Okay, there, I think I see claps down here. I'm just gonna do my best guess. A lot of this is your best guess at this point. And I will resize this. So a lot of this, you're just gonna have to do by hand, unfortunately, is one way, I think the most efficient way. Let me get rid of one of these. Okay. So we've got a couple parts here. And again, thank you all for bearing with me and for sharing. Okay, we've got 4 here. Audio wise, I'm not sure what this is going to sound like, but here, let's just. And now let's start the piece for real. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Not at all bad for like 5 minutes, right, of doing this. So again, we're just in a proof of concept here, of course. And yeah, and obviously we could do more. We could do more, on the audio, certainly. Right now, this is just sort of the raw camera audio. I would normally bring in the mixed track from Logic and then use that as the soundtrack here, right? Okay, but I did want to cover in my last few minutes here a couple of things, right? And unfortunately, this is where Zoom kind of gets in the way. Some of these adjustments, okay, so I just clicked on the adjustments panel in Final Cut Pro. Let me take my, here, I'll destroy my video. There are probably some things you'd want to do, like crop these so that maybe they're not as tall, right? Or sorry, here's the thing you would really, really want to do is scale these to the same size, right? Final Cut Pro does not make this super easy for you. I'm going to type in a number here and let's see what happens. Wow. Okay, that actually worked pretty well. That doesn't usually work that well because, again, people may be recording in different resolutions. or sizes, right? So that's the original size of everybody's video. And hey, if this works, this is great. This doesn't usually work this well. Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and let's say I want to take a little bit off the top and the bottom, right? They're very rectangular, so let's make them a little more square. So here that where you can adjust the crop for each one. Now the crazy thing is, this is measured in pixels, right? But the scale is measured in percent, right? And how do you know what the original video was? Well, that's a process. You got to go back, let's select a video, and then go to the information side here. Oh, look, here was the original size there. So again, there are entire degrees built around Final Cut Pro. Most of what I said also applies to Adobe Premiere, by the way. I mean, I know there's some people who swear by Premiere, others who swear by Final Cut Pro. Neither is really an ideal tool for this. But again, you can sort of bend it to your will to do that, to get this to work. So, you know, we've done this with 4 singers. I'm just going to flip over to another project just so I can show you one that I'm working on. Hopefully my friends will forgive me. Some of you may know some of these folks if you're from Philly. This is my a cappella group, right? Down here we have 12 of our singers. And again, dealing with different formats and getting them all to be the same size and all that, that's a pain. I'll show you the beginning of this.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars, oh baby. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. I'm saying.
All right, so there's the beginning. So we could do the whole video like that, but the one thing I wanted to show you last is that you can, of course, do more adjusting and movement in Final Cut Pro. So I'm just trying to find the right point here.
I love you.
My friend Ted will have to forgive me about his featuring his kazoo playing here. But I just want to give you a taste of what's possible, because, you know, once you have your little postage stamp size videos, you can move them around. You can place them in and sort of create a script for each one, a placement script. And kind of like in Keynote, where you can kind of pick a point and then have it move to another point. And that's what's called setting a keyframe in Final Cut Pro. Again, I really don't have the time to go into all the details. I just kind of want to show you what's possible here. Obviously, transition effects very similar to iMovie. There's just more things you can do in Final Cut Pro. And then if you really, really want to push the envelope, you can get into motion, which I've only scratched the surface of. So I'm not including it here, but motion, you can do all sorts of crazy combined effects and build your own that way. Okay, I only have like just a few more seconds or a few more minutes here. So we've done our editing. I'll close with a couple of thoughts here. You know, with Final Cut Pro, again, in dealing with the variety of videos that you are likely to get, I just find manually positioning them is usually the way to go. If you can find groups to work on and scale them together, that's great. But then usually there's 1 or 2 that will throw them off. One thing I should have mentioned, if you can encourage your singers to position their face in the middle of the camera, not to the side, not above, below, but kind of right in the middle. That way you can make those adjustments, you know, globally, as opposed to having to deal with one at a time, which is, again, where this gets really painful. Let's see, I already talked about it. So here's now the very end, what I'll just call other possibilities. I haven't tried some of these things, right? But in working with a classroom setting, you may want to just start with a few, maybe handpick a few to record their parts to then use as a guide track, right? One thing I should have mentioned before, I mean, obviously you can create a guide track out of a piano performance or even a synthetic performance, right? But again, I think there are a lot of singers who don't feel comfortable singing along to a piano track or a synthesizer. They want to hear their part sung. So you may want to work with some more of your advanced students to maybe lay down some of those initial tracks, use their voices in the guide track, and then use that to bring in more students. I think that there are opportunities to bring in your students as group leaders or section leaders, right? To say, hey, why don't you create the guide track for your section and then work with those in your section to do that? Of course, depending on your curriculum, there may be an opportunity to even bring students into the production and editing phase of this. One thing I have thought about but not done is, could you sort of delegate subsections, right? Hey, you are the alto producer, right? And you're going to create this video, right? And then when you give it to us, we will shrink it down to like a quarter of the screen. So you could have soprano, alto, tenor, bass that way, right? But that way you can distribute some of that editing work. Lastly, I will mention there are some really cool emerging tools, including cloud-based software like BandLab. We've been doing a lot of experimenting with BandLab. It is still really tricky, but it does allow you to, it's audio only, there's no video, but you can record sort of your parts and then upload them right away to the cloud so that everybody has them. It's not as straightforward as that, unfortunately. What usually works best is if, okay, one person does it, okay, uploads it, okay, wait for everything to synchronize. Okay, next person do it, okay, upload, wait for it to synchronize. It's unfortunately not really great at doing things simultaneously. Right. Okay, so I've reached the end of my time. So I know we only touched the surface of so many things, and I'm sure you have many, many questions. You are welcome to follow up with me. Again, I will leave the iCloud Drive folder there in a read-only format once I get it cleaned up a little bit. If you want me to if you submit a video and you want me to take that out, I'm happy to. You don't feel like you've been saved for posterity there. Feel free to reach out to me via email. I would love if you reach out to me on Twitter or follow me on Twitter. I do kind of post stuff on a pretty regular basis. I mentioned my newsletter, Creating at a Distance. If you really like these sort of things or just want to participate as a singer, there's a great new project called virtualchoirhub.org. It was started by a friend of a friend. And there are multiple projects ongoing. It's a global community. There always seems to be a new project that you can do a recording and contribute to. And there's a little more advice there on doing your projects. Okay. So with that, I will stay on for a bit if you want to, talk to me or text me some questions. But of course, if you have another session to move on to, I completely understand. So thank you for being here. I was hoping to leave a little more room for questions, but I'll stick around and feel free to reach out to me afterwards. So.